Really bad lighting for you. Bringing you the live stream from the Toyota. Freddie's got a basketball game here in a few minutes, like 45 minutes. And so we're going to wait for that game to start. And in the meantime, we are going to be talking about why it is that the government has messed it up so bad. They have really screwed this up for you. And when you think about how it is that it's taken place literally over almost a century, better than a century, on how bad they screwed this up, returning back to an era in which that we have the capabilities of providing ourselves with this awesome American dream is really not in the cards. In fact, there's just no returning back to any kind of normal. There's no fixing this. It's better to understand what it is that's happening and how it is that they really screwed this up. And when I say they, it's really the collective government, banking system, and really ultimately the people themselves who really accepted this and didn't protest. Like, we have our own choices to make, and one of those choices is to accept what it is that we are dealing with, especially when it comes to the government, the banking system, the money that we use. It really is our choice, and so it's very much a volunteer situation that is happening. But to know that the ever increasing amounts of new money that comes into the system, that's going to continue to separate the rich from the poor. Now, we can look back in history and say, oh, here's where they screwed it up. That's who they did it. It was this administration. And you can keep pinpointing it all the way back as far as you want. And a lot of people want to take it all the way back to the actual creation of the Federal Reserve itself, and not really think about what it is that was taking place within the United States that ultimately forced the Federal Reserve to come into existence. Now, I know a lot of people who have researched the Federal Reserve, and they have a really good story that they tell about it and how it's the group of elitist banking money men who formed the Federal Reserve Bank in the secrecies over on the island, over on Jekyll Island. And it's a great theory and story that is told behind it, and ultimately it's true. Like, there's nothing wrong about that in the way that that story is told. I mean, it's absolutely correct. However, what is not necessarily told in the same fashion is the devastating effects that were taking place through the booms and bust cycles prior to the Federal Reserve. Now, good, bad, or ugly, it was another system that was taking place. So when we look at what it was that was happening prior to the Federal Reserve, when you have a gold standard or a metallic metal money currency, there is a limited amount of it that is available to do transactions. And when the economy heats up, that's a lot of transactions that are happening. And as the more transactions start to occur within a heated economy, what you are going to end up finding is a concentration of wealth. I mean, you think about it. If you are working hard and you are out there earning a lot of money, you are most likely going to take that money and start to save it, because what happens when you save? You're able to make bigger purchases like a car or a house or something of this nature. So the idea of a hot economy starts to concentrate the money. It was sold to the people, sold to all the businesses, sold to the government out there, that if a central banking system was able to create currency and inject it into this hot economy, it could be this elastic money supply that then would provide all the currency needed to do the transactions. And if the economy was to slow down, you could pull that money back out in order to smooth out this business cycle. And this is how it was sold to a lot of people out there, that the Federal Reserve could smooth out the business cycle by having this elastic money supply. And then they promised, hey, we won't print too much. So when it was sold to the people, hey, would you rather have these boom and bust cycles with all this devastating, depressionary effects and soup kitchens and government who can't do anything about it because they're limited on how much they can actually do? Or would you rather have this central banking system that then gives the government the ability to stimulate the economy, do this government spending, prevent, or hopefully prevent, the soup kitchen type of things from taking place within the economy. And the people said, yes, government should be doing something. Well, as soon as they said, yes, the government should be doing something, what we did is we sent ourselves down a road of ever increasing amounts of government intervention, central banking intervention, ever increasing amounts of currency, and the problems we now face is massive inequality on account of it. So, what is it that they plan on doing in order to prevent the pain and suffering to the people out there to keep them from rioting? I mean, there's literally nothing that can be done except more money injection. And if you're going to have more money injection, you are going to have separation between the rich and the poor. What I find kind of humorous about this is when I bring it up is that a lot of times people say, oh man, you can have like these tax structures and ways of dealing with how it is that the rich are getting their money and we can give it to the poor. And like, okay, so they come up with all these fantastic and, awesome ideas on how it is that they could prevent this from occurring, but yet never really take into consideration that there's never been a good example of it in any time in history. What is a good example is ever increasing amounts of separation between the rich and the poor, because that's what occurs when you have ever increasing amounts of new money that comes into the system. There's really nothing you can do to stop it. Now, I've studied this a lot, and I've really looked into the Cantillon effect and the Cantillon essay. And when you study the Cantillon effect and the Cantillon essay and how it is that the separation really occurs, you come to the realization it has to do with luxuries and the luxurious experience that people are really wanting for their life. I mean, you really think about it. If you earned a lot of money and you don't want to enjoy that money, of course you would want to enjoy the money. That's why you went off and earned it, is because earning money is good feeling life, right? I mean, that's how you want to go about it, is you want to earn a lot of money and you want to go out there and enjoy that with all the conveniences and awesomeness that life has to offer. And the moment that somebody steps up and says, hey, if you are going to do that, you are going to create inequality, you are eventually going to send the domestic manufacturers out of this nation in order to bring in the cheaper production of foreign producers, and this is going to cause a devastating effect to the working class individuals out there. People will say, nah, that can't possibly be it. Okay, right? I mean, you have to understand that it's going to be that way every single time that you have new money coming into the system. The people who have access to it will be spending that on luxurious experiences, luxurious items, and they will cause a separation between the rich and the poor. Now, it's not a blame game. This is another thing. When I tell people this, it's not a blame game. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm sitting in a brand new Toyota pickup. It's not mine, it's my dad's, but it doesn't matter. I'm still sitting in it. And the point being behind it is that this is ever increasingly going to be a problem. That's why you can't reverse it. You can't stop it. And to think that it's a blaming situation, that you blame these people for doing it, that's not the case. But it is an understanding that it was them that did it. Right? Now, you can blame them for it, or you can just understand that's just the simple case. It's just the way it goes. If you have ever increasing amounts of production that brings in new money and you raise your standard of living, you will want to enjoy that higher standard of living. And by enjoying that higher standard of living, you are going to bring in luxurious items, luxurious experiences, and that will eventually cause a separation. Now, once you got that, once you figured it out, and you realize, man, there is nothing that can be done, because the moment that government comes in to stop that from happening, everybody falls into pain and misery. And if they do something like, hey, maybe we'll just try and inject a bunch of money into the hands of the poor people, let me ask you something. Poor people don't have the money. Who does? If the poor people don't have the money, who does? The rich people get it, because that's what ends up happening when you give the poor people the money, is that they go and spend it. They very rarely will pay down debt, buy into assets, do something responsible with it. Most of the time, they will just nickel and dime the money away until it's gone, or blast it off in one good experience. And that's generally what ends up happening when you hand somebody money that they didn't earn. And that's going to be the case every single time. And so if you hand the poor a bunch of money and they are not being incredibly responsible with that money, paying off debt, getting educated, buying into assets, doing things like that, then what's going to end up happening is they're going to spend it and it's going to end up in the hands of the rich every single time. And you can disprove that in the case of history, because every single time you ever hand poor people money, that doesn't make them rich. It just eventually makes them poor again. Like, how much inequality have we experienced since the stimulus packages? Okay? Massive amounts. The rich got massively rich. Why? Because when you give the poor people the money, what do they do with it? They essentially go out there and spend it, deal with it in a way that almost essentially hands it right back to the rich. Very rarely do you see them making the appropriate decision. Because if they were making the appropriate decision throughout life and knew how to do that, they wouldn't be in a position of being poor. And that's unfortunate. Now, as we go into the future, what can you expect? More of this. More of it going into the future. And that's going to be very hard for a lot of people to then internalize and deal with. It's going to be very difficult for a politician to fix that. I mean, I don't, like, all the promises of stealing from the rich and giving to the poor will not work. It's a great story to tell. It really is. But never in history has that ever proven to be any kind of reasonable way of dealing with an economy that's going to be lasting. If there was, it would still be in existence. Knowing that it's cyclical. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing stays the same. And to know how it is that you are going to be playing in that game, right? Make sure it stays up. Because when you are in the cyclical game, then you know that there's no fixing it, returning it, but that you are on a path. How is this going? You know, when it was awesome when the United States was the working class powerhouse of an industrial nation. We produced great stuff and we sent that stuff off there to the world. Just consider that for just a minute. We produced wonderful stuff here in the United States, and we sent that stuff out there to the world, and the world sent us their gold. That's what was happening. All throughout that awesome, building of all these wonderful factories and all the wonderful stuff that everybody was buying, and we were sending it out there to the world was sending us their gold. What happens when you have a bunch of new money coming in? Okay? It's going to make an awesome way of life. So when people say, "Oh, it's the politicians who need to return us back to that," what in the world could they possibly do to do that? They're like, that isn't even in the realms of possibility. There's nothing there in the cards. Like, literally nothing. People say, like, "Oh man, well, you can return back to a gold standard." No, you can't. If you did, you would end up sending all your gold out there to the world for their production. How do you think we got it in the first place? I mean, essentially we stole it during World War II, but that's another story. We produced a bunch of stuff and we sent it out there to the world, and the world sent us their gold. Whether by force or choice, we got it. And now, in order to maintain this elevated standard of living, we have to have ever-increasing amounts of new money that is pouring into the system in order to buy the production of the world to maintain this elevated standard of living. If you were to take all that stuff from the world and say, "Nah, never mind, you guys just keep it," our standard of living would crash almost immediately. People would be wondering what it is that they are going to be doing as far as anything out there, because majority of the jobs require the foreign production to come in so that we can sell that stuff to each other. That's how bad it really is here in the United States. We are very much dependent on the production of foreign nations. And that's what's crazy, because we produce a lot of stuff here in the United States still. But we consume so much that we actually consume more than we export. Being a huge manufacturing powerhouse isn't enough, because our standard of living is so high, because our consumption level is so intense. Fixing that is going to be a very difficult road to go down. Most people don't understand what's going on, and they really think about the next new thing that they're going to go out there and buy. They wonder about what it is that they can do in order to acquire more in their life, as opposed to thinking what it is that they could do to try and get less in their life. This is the sad state of affairs that we now are in that knowing that the ever increasing amounts of demand for foreign production that comes in is going to continue to separate the rich from the poor. That's scary for a lot of people to internalize. They wonder, what is it that we can do about it? And there's really nothing. Like, once you get that, it comes to a good understanding. It was just like, okay, there's nothing we can do there. But what is it that you're supposed to do as an individual person to try and deal with that? Now that you can deal with. See, this is really where I think a lot of people end up getting lost, is that they think, man, it's hopeless. There's nothing we can do. And as a collective, I don't know what it is that can be done, but you as an individual have a lot that you can do. I mean, you can do a lot as an individual. You can cut back on your expenses. You know where your wasteful spending goes. You know it. You've seen it. You've done it. You're justifying it. You will self-justify those frivolous little purchases and things that you buy. You'll justify that stuff. You know where it's at, right? All those subscriptions, all that entertainment, none of those necessities that you are dumping your money into, right? You know where they're at. If you were to remove those out of your life, you would have a fairly significant amount of money, I bet. But even if you didn't do that, there is ways of making money out there that is so much easier than it ever has been in the past. And so when I think about, like, what is it that I've even done for myself in order to make money? Well, I have a day job. I do these YouTube videos. I have a side hustle. I try to do things online to try and make money. And it's just like there's so many different ways of doing it. It's not a matter of how much you make. It's a matter of being in the energy of flow, right? Like, how is the money flowing out there? How do I get into it? Once you're into it, then you can try and figure out how to, like, increase the flow. But it's a matter of learning how to be in flow, right? Most of the time people will get into it. They'll have a lot of it coming towards them, but then they end up sending it right back out in payments. And then you think to yourself, man, what am I doing here? I'm just spinning my wheels. Well, that's why you have to have, like, the attitude, like the literal attitude. I am going to spend as little as I can and earn as much as I can. Little as I can, much as I can. Little as I can, much as I can. And you stay in that energy, and then you think to yourself, man, what is that I do with my extra? All the money beyond the money you're already making. Well, then if you have a place where you're going with your extra, I assure you the universe won't come and take it from you. Because if you don't have a plan for it, the universe does. They will come up with bills, accidents, issues, problems, all kinds of stuff that will take that money from you. But if you have a plan for it already, then it will already be gone. Right? See, you will deal with the problems no matter what. You will always have the problems. But if you have the money on hand, it'll take your money from you too. But if you take that money and you do something with it before the problem does, then you'll figure it out. That's how it always goes down. Like, and it doesn't matter how many times I have seen it. Like, if I put some money away and I don't think I was like, man, if I don't have a plan for that and I just something comes up and starts to take it away. Yeah. Vehicle needs new tires, transmission blew, something goes on, and it's just like, dang, man, why does this happen every single time? It's because you didn't have a plan for it. Like, you didn't have a plan to get into the flow, you didn't have a plan to stay low on your expenses, and you didn't have a plan for the money, so it all goes away. If you don't have a plan for what you got going on, the universe does have a plan for you, and it's probably not going to be the one that you were hoping for. So you better plan for yourself and deal with it yourself and know exactly what it is that you are doing and why you're doing it. So for me, when I think about that, it was like, I love my day job. I think other people out there probably enjoy their day job too, as much as they say they don't, because you know why? Being stressed out about whether or not you're able to make your life payments, whether it's, the electric bill or the insurance or the medical bill or something that's going on out there, if you have a difficult time trying to pay those things, your life is in a lot of stress. So being at work is a very stressful thing. When you get to a position in your life in which that job is a choice and not a forced situation, well, then that choice that you are making in life is a whole lot less stressful. And this is really where I think a lot of people in the United States end up suffering, is that most people are deep in debt, cannot make their monthly payments. They are not earning enough in their existence. They have way too many subscriptions and debt payments and, other bills inside of their life, and they don't earn enough with their money that they make at their job. And that stresses them out incredibly bad, to a point that they don't make good decisions anymore, and they get really hopeful and wishful, thinking that there is something out there, somebody who's going to relieve this problem that they now face, not realizing they can totally relieve it themselves. They do have to sacrifice. It sucks. Yeah, I know, right? It sucks having to drive a 97 Suburban. Occasionally, you might get to be able to borrow a vehicle that's really nice, like I'm driving today. This isn't mine, but I really enjoy driving it. And when I'm done driving it, I'm going to go back to the 97 Suburban and be very happy with the fact that I'm not making payments, and I don't have to make full coverage insurance, and I don't have to worry about any of the scratches or bumps that I may get in a parking lot. To me, that's a very good position to be in. Other people find that their status is far too high to try and be in a 97 Suburban. They just couldn't do it. Their ego is too much for them. They don't want to have people like whispering, like, look at what they're driving. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, I could buy two of these things right now if I wanted to, but I'm choosing not to do that so that I could have a decent future. Which one would I rather have? Look cool today or have a decent future? Well, I don't know. I mean, I've had a position in my life in which I didn't think I was going to have anything at all. So you know what? I would much rather have a decent future than to have anything else. Paying my bills on time is probably the coolest experience in the world. That is what drives me, right? Being able to have stuff in my life that I never thought I would be able to do before. And as I look out there and I think to myself, man, why is it that I drive the oldest vehicle in town? Why is it like everybody else seems to have these new cars and and look cool and have these awesome experiences? And I'm thinking, man, I do a lot in my life to try and bring in more for my family, more for my savings, more for my retirement, cutting back on my expenses. And man, why is it that they have all this? And it seems like I still am not necessarily struggling, but don't feel like I can afford any of this wonderful stuff that these other people have. And then I realize they can't afford any of it. They have nothing, they can't, they're literally just minutes away from falling off the cliff. And I'm like, but they look really good, right? I mean, that is a really nice appearance that they carry. And it makes me somewhat envious and jealous of that. I would love to have that in my life. And then I go and I look at what I got for my retirement portfolio, and I'm like, man, I didn't think it would ever be like that. I didn't think I would ever have that much in there, considering I didn't have anything at all. And it's not even that much. To me, it's just exciting. It's just exciting to see it grow. And I'm thinking, man, that is cool. I wouldn't be able to do that if I had a new car. All right? Not with the luxurious experience. If I had the luxurious experience, it'd all be over. I would be struggling and wondering what it is that I need to do in order to make the next payment. Wondering whether or not that this Christmas how long it's going to take me to pay back Christmas or something of that nature. I don't stress about any of that stuff anymore. But I do have a 97 Suburban that's kind of ugly. But occasionally I get to drive a cool truck, right? All right, how long are we into this? 23 minutes. What do we got here for comments? Hold Bitcoin and take advantage of deflation. If you don't, you live in the inflationary fiat nightmare. My friends could not understand how I retired within 10 years of buckling down with just an okay job. It was all choices. Yeah, and it really is. It's very difficult to try and, for me it was anyway, it was very difficult to try and make it with my average regular job, right? I was drinking a lot, I was very depressed, I was spending my money on things I really shouldn't have been doing. When I gave up all that stuff, all those pleasure-seeking experiences, and I moved into just trying to chase excellence or trying to put myself in a position in which that I could acquire more as opposed to spending more, This started changing everything about what it was that I was experiencing in my life. And now I look back on it, and if I stayed with the day job and just using that, I probably could have done it, but it would have taken a whole lot longer, and it would have taken a whole lot more discipline, and it would have taken a whole lot more stress trying to figure out what it was that I was going to do to continue to make my bill payments and save and do all the things that I wanted to do with my life. So I realized, man, if I could increase my flow just by a little bit, then I might actually be having a way of making this stuff work. And then when I realized, man, by having this side hustle, this is a pretty good little deal. If I could increase it a little bit more, what can I do with that? And next thing I know, I got retirement coming and I got all these other things that are happening. I didn't buy into toys. I didn't buy I didn't buy any, I don't have any new toys. Yeah, nothing fancy, nothing fun, none of that stuff. I guess if anything, I bought some experiences, right? Like I took the family to go to like museums and different things like that. And so if there was anything that I spent money on, it was actually enjoying experiences, memories, right? Building those memories up, going to the ball games, right? Like that was an incredible fun experience going up and watching the Red Sox play the Mariners and having Trevor Story tossed me the damn ball, right? The shortstop for the Red Sox after the end of the sixth inning. Awesome experiences, man. Like that's those things are priceless. Like you can't buy like that's all the money in the world doesn't buy an experience like that. That is so awesome. So for me, I look at it just like that. It was just like I know for a fact what it is that was driving me down, what was keeping me from actually being successful. And when I look at those things and I think to myself, man, just avoid those particular items in your life. A lot of it is pleasure seeking stuff, just trying to make yourself feel good, going out and spending money on things that are really kind of pointless. When you recognize it, look at those things and say, man, I could take that and I could move it over and I could buy something else with it, like Bitcoin or silver or gold or stocks, or even consider buying into business or saving up to get into education, get an education or something like this manner. You're chasing excellence. You recognize it, man. I know when I'm chasing pleasure, I'm bored, I'm frustrated, I feel like I'm being left out, something of that nature, or missing out, however you want to call it. And you recognize those things as that, and then you say, okay, man, over here, what I'm going to do is at first it seems hard, it seems difficult to start a business, to get into, a new skill, something of this nature is very difficult to do. But once you move into it and you start doing it, you're going to find that the things that gave you pleasure, chasing those pleasurable experiences, you start finding pleasure by chasing into the excellence. Like literally, you find where you were getting dopamine hits from chasing these excellence, or chasing these pleasurable experience. You start getting the dopamine hits from being successful at your business, being in the idea of learning that new skill, being in the idea of creative energy of building a network of people that you can then, move along with in that idea of whatever it is you're trying to do, build a real estate team or something. It's entirely up to you, like what it is your ideas are gonna create. But knowing that's the case, I've seen it so many times that people will chase excellence all day and then at the end of the day unwind it by trying to go and chase some pleasurable experience. Happens every time. What are you gonna do? You have your choices. Wow, look at here. Okay. All sounds dandy till you realize the America you grew up in this is completely gone. Yeah, and I know, and that's what I'm trying to explain here regularly on this channel is what do you expect? Like, who did that come from? Like, I'm sorry, I can't read it. I don't have my glasses on. Yeah, I'm sorry. But I mean, I'm not sure what you expect. Like, do you expect America to go back to the way it was? I mean, because that ain't happening. And so we can sit around and talk about how it is that it's not going to go back to that. And you can talk about how awesome it used to be. And you can talk about how different it is now comparatively to what it was. But what are you going to do? Just sit around and do that? Just talk about what it could or should have been or the way it was or anything like that? Or are you going to do something about what it is that's happening today, knowing of all the situations that I explained? Okay? Knowing that the new money coming in is going to do this. Knowing that the domestic manufacturers are not going to be competitive here. Knowing that our good average jobs that we used to experience here in the United States are no longer good jobs. They suck, right? Knowing that's the case, but also knowing that you can do something about it in the idea that we have the ability to do so many things to earn money. I mean, I think about it myself. I have a day job, I have a side hustle, I'm doing these YouTube things. I try to figure out how to, figure out little tiny pieces of ways to make money in on other fashions, even just using the YouTube channel here to try and get affiliate sales through Amazon or something like that. It doesn't really matter to me how much it is. I like for other people are like, dude, why waste your time trying to chase a dollar? And I'm like, it's not chasing a dollar, it's figuring out how to earn the dollar. That's it. You learn how to earn $1. Tell me that you can't figure out how to earn two, and then four, and then eight, and then so on. Now, I watch how it is that I went from 40 years old with absolutely nothing. In fact, it was worse than that. I was $20,000 in debt, completely drunk, no idea on how I was going to get any money in. I had my day job, broken down vehicles, no real network, no nothing for an idea of what it is that I was going to do. And now I've completely turned that around in less than 10 years. Now, people might have been able to do it in 2 years, and that's fascinating. Like, man, that's awesome that you can get on a rocket ship and knock things out in 2 years and just be awesome and have all the millions of dollars and all the other stuff. Most people have to end up working for it, and I don't mind working for it. I don't mind being on the path. I don't mind sacrificing today so that I can have something in the future. And as I'm watching what it is that I have build and grow over time, I'm thinking to myself, man, it is possible to do it here in today's America. Yeah, it sucks. It's gone. Like the America that we used to know and love, and the ideas of it, it's gone. It doesn't work like that anymore. And I wish it did. It would be awesome if it did. But it don't, and that's okay. We can figure it out. Amazing content. Well, thank you very much. If you guys are really enjoying this stuff, hit the like button. I see we have 58 likes. Thank you so much for doing that. The YouTube algorithm will grab this video, spread it around for more people to join in. We get more people joining in. You guys are going to have a much better conversation in that comment section. We got some of the best comment section in the entire YouTube, subculture of Economist out there, because we're working class individuals trying to figure out what it is that we need to do. All the rest of the people out there who generally talk economics on a higher level are like rich, and don't get me wrong, I know a lot of these guys, they're great dudes. I mean, they're wonderful to share their experiences, share their knowledge, share their understanding of economics, but very few of them are working class individuals trying to figure out how to do it right here, right now, with this time. All right. I mean, there was a time in the past that it was a lot easier to get into real estate. It was a lot cheaper, and the ability for the average everyday dude to try and figure out how it was that they were going to acquire that real estate was a lot simpler and easier back in the day. It's a lot more difficult today, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. These guys know how that works. They share their knowledge all the time on how to do that. But understanding economics from a working class point of view so that you can figure out what it is that you need to do as an average everyday person, knowing that you may not want to be the landlord, you may not want to be that stock investor, you may not want to be that dude who's out there trying to figure out what it is that they need to do within this world of economics. You just want to show up every day for your job. That's not unreasonable. Unfortunate, that ain't gonna work. Sorry to tell you. I would wish it was. Now, we can sit here and we can talk about why it could or couldn't work, or we can understand what it is that's taken place so that you can then figure out what it is that you need to do. Knowing that this money currency system and how it works is very, very much enslaving if you let it be. It's also incredibly rewarding if you know how to make it that way. So when you start learning how this system truly operates and why it is that there's groups of people out there who have acquired massive amounts of debt to buy massive amounts of cash flowing assets and sitting in massive amounts of wealth, well, you can do that too, if you choose to. You can get mad at those other people who have done it, and now they are super rich, and you're wondering why your day job isn't enough, and you can get mad at that situation, and that's cool. I used to get mad at it too. In fact, I used to share my understanding of how it was that they were using this system to create an environment that would enslave you and keep you from being successful. And then one day I gave that up, and guess what? I started becoming successful. I wonder who it was that was really holding me down. Just saying. Right? I knew for a fact that I was about ready to lose everything in my life, and I knew exactly who to blame it on. And then I accepted it for myself and said, okay, maybe there's something I need to do in order to be more successful in my decision making so that I can have a better outcome for me and my family. And that's exactly what I started to do. First, I gave up alcohol because an alcohol-based consciousness is probably not going to be a good one to be making good decisions in. Once you get out of that, and at least for me, it took a while to actually clear my mind of all the issues that I was having, and still, you have to understand, it probably will never be completely cleared out. At 40 years old, trying to figure that stuff out was a very difficult road to go down. You have to understand why it was that you were drinking as much as you were. Figuring that part out and moving into the next stage, which is actually trying to pursue the excellence in your life, man, does it become very rewarding feeling the more you do it, the more you want to do it, the more you want to share that idea with other people to hopefully get them to go out there and be motivated to do it with you, for themselves, for their family. It's an amazing experience to have and share. I thought about it here on this channel. I never thought that I would be sharing my story about alcohol and have so many people come to me and say, dude, thank you so much, man. It completely changed my life. I haven't drank for 6 months. I haven't drank for a year. It's been however long that it's been, and their lives are they're coming to me and they're saying, dude, I cannot believe how much better my life has become. And they're thanking me, and I'm thinking, dude, just think yourself, man. I mean, I love the fact that you heard my story and I was able to share that. But understand that if you had made that decision for yourself, you were making it because you really wanted that in your life. You saw somebody else do it and thought, man, I can do that too. You know that there's other people out there doing it just like this economy is today. You saw how it is that people are out there absolutely making it today in this economy. Now, are they doing it with their regular day jobs? Maybe, but probably not. But they know that there are so many more options, so many more opportunities. To take advantage of that is really up to you. What we got here? The currency system allows us to produce excess and exchange it for other excess products. Yeah, and I mean, we also have to understand that it's like the system in itself is also producing a situation in which that the excess money is eventually going to be in a position in which that it doesn't buy the excess products. Like, I know that seems weird to think, but at some point in the future, because the money printing and the devaluation of the dollar, Social Security benefits won't be able to buy anything. Like, you can guarantee the benefits as far out into the future you want because you always have the ability to create the money. But what you won't have is the ability to promise that those benefits will buy what you need into the future. The goods and services may not be there. If you can't produce the goods and services, then you can't promise to deliver. You can deliver all the money you want, but you can't promise that money will be able to deliver the goods and services. Clean and sober for 9.5 years, thanks to sacred healing herbs and sacred healing fungi from God's holy garden of nature. Alright, hello, here comes the $1,000 cheeseburger. I quit drinking alcohol years ago, best decision ever. Yeah. And it's kind of funny because, I know a lot of people out there, they're like, man, I don't have a problem with alcohol and I never had the issue. And I totally, man, that is awesome. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you don't have a problem with it, that is excellent, man. I wish that I could enjoy alcohol in the sense of like social experience, the experience with other people. Because when you get in that buzz on and you're joking and you're laughing and you're connecting, you don't get that with being sober. It's just like, it's just not the same thing. I don't care what anybody says. You just don't connect on the same level, man. So I really enjoyed those experiences that I had with those people. And I wouldn't give that up for anything in the entire world. I mean, I really wouldn't give up those experiences with him. But it also took me down, and it really took me down a lot. And so I was not being very successful when I was in that state of mind. However, if I didn't experience that, I don't know if I would try as hard as I had. You see what I'm saying? It's like if I didn't experience the pain of that, then I don't know if I would have tried as hard to get out. And that's really where I think, like, a lot of times you almost have to suffer some painful experiences in order to learn the lessons that you need to be committed to the outcome of what it is that you really want in your life. And that's really where I think that was for me with alcohol. It was just like, man, it took me to a point in which that I didn't think I was going to be able to pull it out. And then when it started to happen, I'm like, holy moly, if this is really going to occur, man, I'm not gonna like lose this opportunity by start drinking again. Like to think, man, okay, I can relax a little bit, maybe I can have a drink or two and it'll be cool. No, I mean, I looked at it right then. I was like, man, if you do that, you are going to screw this opportunity up. Don't do that. As much as I wanted to, as much as I thought about it, I didn't. And then I was just like, okay, I'll stick to my chasing of excellence as much as I can, and I'll give up on the idea of ever having a drink again in a social atmosphere, ever. And just like letting it go, it's difficult. Like I don't think I ever really truly let it go. I want to do it, even when I know I'm not going to do it, and I don't do it. And even when I'm in a position in which that I could totally get away with it, I don't do it. But I want to, and so I never did let it go. I know I didn't. Even though I kind of did. I mean, I haven't done it in 10 years, but inside, I don't think I ever really let it go. The pursuit of happiness is better than the actual happiness. Yeah, and I think that's really the case of it. It's just like the pursuing of anything is better than the actual acquiring of it, right? Like when the moment that you acquire it, you feel like this success, like this reward, accomplishment. But really, it was the path of getting there that was the funnest part, right? Of actually building up what it was, the team, the project, the whatever it was, to finally bring that to reality, to fruition. That experience along the way was awesome. I mean, you get there and you're super excited about the moment, but really you don't necessarily talk about the moment as much as everything that led to it. You know? Amen. Jesus is the King of Kings. Got saved when I was 9. Endured a lot of chastening and finally went sober. God always knows best. Okay. Always appreciate Simon's emotional intelligence. I appreciate it. I don't know if I always had emotional intelligence. I appreciate you actually saying something about that, because there was a time I used to lose my, like, I would lose my cool or like my temper or just not, deal with things very well. And nowadays I would like to think that I can actually recognize a situation and then give it the meaning that is appropriate, because it's up to you. Like, there's nothing that has any more hidden meaning to it than the meaning that you have given it. So if you could just turn whatever situation you have into whatever meaning you want to give it, instead of giving it a meaning that is like ugly or mean or frustrating or hateful or upsetting or whatever, just turn it around and give it whatever meaning you choose to give it. Learning that process has probably been one of the best things for me, is just being able to understand that the information that I am receiving is up to me to handle. right? Not for me to be reactive to, but for me to understand and then to use it and absorb it for the best of my abilities. Right? Alrighty, how much time? We got 45 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna go for like another 10 or 15, and then we're gonna call it good. Oh, you started early tonight. I just came to say hi. Japan is going to raise interest rates tonight. I'm from Japan. Will be interesting to see how the markets react tomorrow. Stay warm and financially solvent. Yeah. Uh, you live you live in Alabama? Oh, you guys must be talking. I live in Astoria. All right. I remember burning my mortgage in the backyard with the wife and kids. The extreme feeling lasted maybe a month. The comfort has gone on and on. It was a step on my way to Florida, to FL. Huh. All right. Love this. Get ready, everyone. Take care of your families. Prep up deep. All right. The market is very weak. Expect a shock. Let's cruise down here. My boyfriend wants to force me to move to the Midwest to pay cash for a house, but I'm from Southwest and hates snow. He is stubborn. Mortgage I'll pay. He still wants to move. Um, wow, what's up with financial independence? Oh, I see. FI, financial independence. Okay. Florida. That's so funny. You guys are awesome. Well, I don't know. I mean, when it comes to that comment with your boyfriend who wants to move and stuff like that, I mean, if you guys aren't on the same page, I don't know if you guys should, like, I'm not trying to give you advice, but I mean, you really have to consider, like, what it is that you are wanting for your experience. And if you both aren't in agreement on it, then I don't know if that's going to necessarily, like, you should both do something that you both want to do, right? Not like, yeah, I want to do this and you should come along and you're going to experience it too. Like, for me, I've thought about this a few times. You don't want people to do things because you want them to do them. You want them to do things because they want to do them. Right? As much as you want them to experience something awesome with you, like, no, I think you would really love to do this. You should come along. You would totally enjoy it. If they don't want to, if they're not really into it, as much as you know that they would enjoy it, if they're not into it, then there's no reason to try and ask them or force them into it. Right? It very well could show up and be very cool and have a great moment or whatever that comes from it. But most likely, if it's not their idea, then they're not going to be putting their heart or their feeling of like wanting to be there, and therefore it's probably not going to end up working out very well for you. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like, you know, I mean, just take something like fishing, for example, right? Like, say you liked fishing, but your boyfriend didn't, right? But your boyfriend wanted to hang out with you, and so he's just going to go fishing with you, even though you're really into the different lures and how to cast and how to jig and how to do all the different things. And he can really care less and is just tossing things out there and just making a bunch of splashing and not really caring. You're not going to feel, you're not going to have fun fishing with him, right? And that goes for anybody out there, no matter what they're doing. You want to find things that they want to do too, so that they're into it. And that's whether or not you want to move to a particular location or one sharing a hobby, go whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And see, that's something like I realized in my life, like, because I used to get upset when people didn't do things that I wanted them to do. Like, I'd be like, oh man, they didn't do it the way that, like, they said that they would. They promised they were going to be there. They're not there. And I used to get kind of upset with other people for not doing things that I wanted them to do. And then I had to come to the realization, people don't do anything you want them to do. Right? If they want to do it, they're going to be in it. They're going to be in it with you. And you can't force them to be in it with you if they're not going to want to be in it with you. And that's really where it comes down to, is that you're going to have the best experience when you guys are doing it together, when you're sharing the ideas. Thinking about what lures you're going to take the next day to the lake. You know, what time are you going to get there? What place, where are you going to be out there on the lake? Not going, okay, what time have we got to be there? What time do I got to get up? Okay, fine, and I was just like, I'll be there. No, I want to go. Like, of course you don't. All right. Thank you so much for the Buffalo Blanco 5141 for the 9.99, man. I really appreciate the super chat and the support for the channel. Very awesome. Hey, Yui. Thanks for the content. Made me realize how much my kids are struggling with this economy. In my days, my parents didn't give me anything. Thankfully, I am able to do that for mine. Gave them a home. Yeah, well, that's something to think about. It's like, you're right, man. Like, there was a time when the kid grew up, and out of high school, it was just like, fine, man, you're on your own. Go get a job and go make it. That was totally a reasonable thing. They could go get a job. I mean, just about anywhere that you go and get a job, it would be a reasonable pay enough to go get an apartment and figure things out. Nowadays, that's not the case. Like, to tell your kids, get out there and go figure it out, I had to. Well, they probably can and will, be considering what it is that there is available nowadays for them to go and try and earn money. But if you don't show them ahead of time how to do that, they're going to be competing against people who do. And if you say, go get a job and figure it out, well, that's not enough. Like, the job isn't enough for them to go figure it out. I graduated high school. When Sarah and I graduated high school, we were 18 years old, part-time jobs, in school, renting an apartment, right, in high school. Her mom moved off. Like, she didn't even have parents around. It was just her and her sister. She had a part-time job working at the pizza parlor. I had a part-time job working at the lumber yard. We rented an apartment. She lived in that apartment for the last few months that she was in high school, graduated while living on her own. Right? The day I graduated, we moved in together. We've been together ever since. That's a story that a few of my buddies had told. Maybe not so much about living on their own right at, in high school, but right out of high school, quite a few of us were doing that. So having an apartment in high school and making bill payments and living life right there, it was still a possibility. Nowadays, I can't imagine that being something that you could do, a couple of kids with part-time jobs. Like, is that even a real thing anymore? I mean, I guess somewhere, somehow, somebody could possibly do that, but that's not necessarily a real thing anymore. For me to expect my kids to do something like I did is very illogical, right? Like, that's not something that you can, like, ask your kids to do. That doesn't make any sense, because it's not available to them like that. Other things are. There's so much that is available to them, and once you recognize what it is that is available to them, then now you can give them an opportunity, and maybe providing them with a place to live so that they could build up on assets, build up on a situation in which that they can secure a rate of interest beyond that of their occupation, so that maybe they can actually enjoy a little bit of independence beyond that of your help. That is going to take a lot of work and effort. To make sure that they get down on that road, that they're on that road. And it's not easy, for most people. They have a hard time just taking care of themselves, let alone to try and put a position for their kids to make it. All right, I am single guy and enjoying my life. Thank God. Adult kids should live with their parents as long as possible. I totally agree. To save money, in my opinion, I do agree that. Yeah, we are in a depression. Whether people realize it or not, it's not going to get better anytime soon either. And see, this is where I totally agree. I mean, I think that an individual who recognizes this situation and says, hey, kids, don't move out. Right? As much as I want them to move out and so I can have my, my freedom, peace, independence, I don't know, whatever. Like, to me, I don't mind having my kids around, so it's cool. But, for me, like, for to tell them, hey, stay here as long as possible and save as much as possible, earn as much as possible, position yourself as well as possible, and take advantage of this as much as possible. Like, telling them that, do this as much as possible. For me, like, I don't want to talk ill about, like, my parents or stepmother or anything like that, but I couldn't wait to get out of the house. Like I could not wait. I was like, man, I heard stuff like, well, when you pay your own bills, you can make your own rules kind of stuff. It was like, awesome. I'll be paying my own bills as soon as possible and getting out of here, right? Because I didn't like any of the attitude that I was getting from any of that stuff. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, like that's how they were pushed out of their homes, is essentially like feeling like they were obligated to leave. I don't want my kids to feel obligated to leave. I want them feeling like, hey, man, you're obligated to figure out how it is that you're going to use this position to make the best opportunity for yourself. If that's the obligation that they feel by giving them that opportunity, then awesome, great. I hope they feel obligated. You know? Let's see here. I live with my mom. It's okay. Absolutely. Sounds like they are distracting you with apocalyptic fantasies. Just focus on investments with returns, not fantasy. Wealth isn't made in a microwave. Alright. Gotta dash, y'all. Merry Christmas. And don't buy your kid more than 2 dolls. All right. You don't like you don't like your mom? No, I love my mom. I was talking about my stepmom. All right. My mom is awesome. My mom is at the house right now. She's probably listening. Oh, no, I had my stepmother was a very awesome person who had a huge following of friends and people who really enjoyed her company and her attitude and a lot of what she had to say. She was a bartender, and this is what was cool about her. She was a bartender, and she had her favorite customers, but it didn't matter who you were. Like it didn't matter if you walked in. You could be like the a famous rock star, movie star, whatever, or you could come in homeless. It didn't matter. If you were the next one to be served, you were getting your next drink and you were the next in line. She didn't treat anybody any differently than anybody else, and it didn't matter who you were. That was so neat about that lady. It's like that was one thing that I really appreciated and learned from the experience of growing up with her, is that she really taught me that you don't treat anybody any differently no matter who they are. And that was something that I have always taken into consideration. Yeah. She was very stubborn at times, very stern, and a lot of times hard to get along with. But she was really fair in that idea, right? And when it was something that she needed to apologize for, it was very difficult to get the apology. When she did, it was sincere. Okay? So these are the things that I learned from her. It was tough, right? It was a tough upbringing, but it was also pretty cool in a lot of ways. And so, do I appreciate it? Absolutely. Was there some things that I didn't? Yeah, right? Like I felt like I was really kind of obligated to leave the house. And I didn't like that feeling when I left. I wish it wasn't like that, you know? But it is just the way it was. And that's the way it is now. And, I don't think anything else about it other than I'm actually kind of thankful it happened in that way. It was actually driving and motivating and kept me feeling like I can actually take care of myself without having to rely on anybody else, even my parents, even though there was times when I did rely on them. But at that time, I felt, man, yeah, I can be independent at 18 years old and get out of this house and move out and be on my own, and I can prove it. And I did. And sometimes it was done out of stubbornness almost. So that makes sense? Alright. But it's okay. She is awesome most of the time. This is why they are moving the planet's grow zones in the African Huh. Alright. Alright, I got like another 60 seconds here, guys, and then I'm going to call it quits. Thanks for the response. Yeah, even those kids with goods, family, relations, work ethics, end up spinning their wheels by going into luxuries versus assets. Well, in that, yeah, I mean, everybody has their choices to make, right? And then when you grow up in such a way that you really feel like abundance is just everywhere and that it really wasn't that hard to acquire it, when you all of a sudden go into a lifestyle in which that you are very limited and it's struggling and it's very hard, that is a very depressive thing to experience. And without that experience, you don't know what it is that you need to do to prevent that from happening. Like, it's almost living in fear of it occurring that keeps you motivated to go to work every day, to show up, to make sure you're trying, all the time. But if you didn't experience any of that or don't have any idea of that, then it becomes like something that you don't protect yourself from or even try to prevent. You just end up falling into it at times. Or could. I shouldn't say. UE, are you still dollar cost averaging into Bitcoins? Absolutely. Just to let everybody know that I will buy $50 worth of Bitcoin once a week forever. Like, to ask if I'm dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin is yes, I am doing that every single week. There might be a week that I might skip it, but generally I'll make that up the following week. Like if I don't buy it this week, I'll buy $100 the following week. But pretty much from now on, I will be dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin forever. If you act differently around the wealthy, you are selling your soul for a piece of bread. I don't know why you would want it. Like, the only time that I feel that I ever act differently, and I don't even know if I really am anymore, might have been around family, like, or certain things, like you're a little bit more polite, but like I don't act any different. Like, whether or not I'm hanging out at the Rebel Capitalist or I'm hanging out at work or I'm doing whatever, like, this is me. This is what you see is what you get. There is no difference between anything. And to be honest with you, coming out here as much as I have, I've kind of cut the mystery for a lot of people out there trying to figure out exactly who is the uneducated economist. I remember these people used to think like I was some government spy agent or something working for the Federal Reserve. I had other people think I was in the military, had other people thinking some kind of other stuff, and I'm like, guys, I'm just an ordinary average dude who works at the lumberyard. Like, I am not any of that crazy stuff that you seem to think I am. But it was fun to have people think that for a while, because they really did think that. It was just like, I'm like, God, guys, you gotta understand, you could go to where I, like, everybody knows who I am. There's no way I could be any of those things that you're making up, you all are missing the point. You need to do something. Dude, you need to split that dollar cost averaging between Bitcoin and BSV. I guess. What did Trump say yesterday about fixing the housing market? What government has planned is going to increase prices. I have no idea. There's really nothing that I can think of that government could do outside of getting out of the way that is going to do anything other than cause prices to go up and more inequality. Like, they really can't do anything. Like, I understand that people have this fascination idea that the government can step in and do like these wonderful awesomeness, but the particulars that they talk about, like if the government was to give these checks to these people, right? They talk about these particulars, but then ignore what happens from the underlying economic forces from that occurrence. Like, if you just hand a bunch of people money and then expect that doesn't have an economic outcome, that is going to be very different from what it is that you were expecting from the people like you hand the people money and they're like, look, those people were happy, isn't that nice? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's really great, but did you see the economic outcome that came from that, as the division between the rich and the poor grew even worse because of that? And now what you're going to do is you're going to hand them even more money. Right? This is the type of thing that ends up coming from people who say, oh, no, we can fix it if you did this, if government only, right? And then they go and do all that, and then you have ever more increasing separation, and then people wonder why that occurred. Like, you gotta understand the forces that are causing it. It's that move into luxurious experiences. It's that added consumption that happens when you increase the money supply, and people who have first access to that money go and start spending it. Right? This is the type of occurrence that comes from that. And then people try to say, well, what can you do to stop it? And it's just like, you can't, right? You can't inject the money. You can't say, hey, government, do something, and then expect it not to create an inequality from it. Those two things don't go together. I gotta go, guys. This was fun. I really enjoyed hanging out for the hour. You guys have so many comments in here. I wish I could go through them all. UE does go to great lengths to help people understand the Fed. If that's not working for them, I don't know what is. Well, I appreciate it, Justin, and I know that trying to understand the Federal Reserve is probably one of the most difficult things in the entire world to do. I mean, especially if you have any like understanding of the Federal, like if you have no idea who the Fed is, what the Federal Reserve means, like the fractional reserve banking, Fed funds rate, repo facilities, stuff like that. Like it's like, oh my gosh, what is this stuff? It can be like mind numbing. And I totally get that. You break this stuff continuously down. You're here regularly. We share this stuff regularly. You get it piece by piece by piece. You start piecing these things together. You ask the question. It was just like, man, what do they keep talking about? What is this repo facility? Just ask the question. Go to the internet and ask it. What is a repo rate? What is the repo facility? What is the secured overnight financing rate? Like, you start asking these questions and you're going to have a whole list of more questions that are going to come up from it. Start researching those questions one by one. It's a piece by piece by piece, building this thing up. For me, it's been 25, 30 years that I have been studying this stuff. Kid you not. Like, since I was in my early 20s, I have been fascinated with the stock market, with more not so much the stock market as much as economics in general. Right? Like, a lot of times people will think about economics and investing as the same thing, and it's not. Like, a lot of times we talk the same, we look at a lot of the same things, but understanding economics and investing are two different things that are happening. Okay? And you can overlap these things, but to understand it is two different operations that are going on. And for me, like, this 25, 30-year long like experience that I have gone through, this learning, this education, this self-education that I have pretty much gone through, I've developed what I feel is probably one of the best understandings of economics for the working class individual. It may not be like the best one for a central banker, and it may not be the best one for some politician out there, but it certainly is for the guy who is busting his knuckles, the guy who's driving that truck, the guy who's, you know, or the woman who's driving the truck. I mean, it isn't just about guys, right? For anybody out there who is blue collar, working that hourly wage, trying to figure out what it is that they need to do to secure a decent way in this experience of life, following the Uneducated Economist, following the information that we deliver here, and having the conversations with the group that come to the Uneducated Economist, I don't know if there is any better way of grasping the economic education that you are needing. Right? There's like literally, I just can't think of any other way of going about it. I have talked and hung out with some of the coolest economists out there on the internet. Like, you know, I've met plenty of these guys. I've had lots of conversations with them. And most of these guys are really, really good at what they do. But I don't know how many of them are really good at being a working class blue collar worker, understanding the situation we are now facing within this economy. I like You know, do you know what it's like to have 100 million? Maybe you, like, maybe a couple of you do, but I don't know what it's like to have $100 million. I don't know what it's like to have a portfolio of 150 doors. I don't know what it's like to have, you know, all this stuff that a lot of these people out there have who are trying to explain the economy out there. They're at 30,000 feet. That's way more than I got. But I'm standing here on the ground, and I can tell you, I can recognize a lot of economic forces out there that these people are describing and literally waiting for us to live so that they can talk about it. And being here in the working class position is actually one of the best positions that you can be in order to recognize what's happening within the economy. You have firsthand boots on the ground view of it. You're front line. I don't know how many people realize how valuable that is, but if you can recognize what it is that you are seeing out there, you can actually invest way ahead of everybody else out there, because literally they are waiting for you to live your life so that they could take advantage of the data. But you have to live your life first before they can see it. All right. Like the sands in the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. I love Brick's idea of units. YouTube nowadays reminds me of YouTube back in '08. All the grifters and hucksters and doomers come out of the woodwork. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, coming out of the woodwork, or somebody who has been here sharing this information for like over 7 years now. Like, I mean, I'm out here all the time, regularly sharing this information. And what's awesome about what I feel I'm doing here is that I am actually delivering information that is far different from what you're getting off of the mainstream media, from the narratives that are out there, or from the blame game that is excusing a lot of the behaviors of some of these people out there. Like, I feel that the approach that I have brought to the table is very unique and very helpful. Yeah. I mean, I guess everybody would probably feel that about it. But again, how many people out there have shared, even come close to sharing some of the information that I have shared? How many people have come up with like things like the credible threat theory that says, hey, we have a Federal Reserve who has positioned themselves exactly where they want to be? Very few people think that. In fact, most of the people are looking at the Federal Reserve like they don't know what they are doing at all. And in my mind, that's exactly what they want you to think. In fact, I did videos talking about the greatest gaslighting in history, and that was over a year ago I made those videos. So, you know, you can believe who you want. I mean, everybody's going to. And I understand that somebody who is communicating something that is far different than anybody else is communicating, from a working class position, from a broken down 97 Suburban, it's not even broken down. Today I'm in the Toyota. But you guys get where I'm coming from. It's like, this is unique. This is not anything that you're going to get anywhere else. And it's not me trying to share something I think you want to hear. This is exactly what I think is going down. You know, very different. Alrighty, guys, I'm going to go in and watch Freddie play basketball. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Uneducated Economist, you let me know.